Before Seattle exploded with the flannel-drenched noise of Nirvana and Soundgarden, before the term grunge was even major label offices, there was Tina Bell, a black woman with a razor-blade scream and unmatched stage presence, fronting a band called Bam Bam. You've probably never heard of her. That's not an accident. She was erased. But she was there first. Tina was born in 1957, raised in Seattle, a city not yet known for any music outside of garage rock and Jimi Hendrix's Ghost. She came up in a time and place that didn't know what to do with a black woman who wasn't singing soul or R&B. But Tina wasn't interested in what was expected. She was drawn to fire. Raw guitars, howling vocals, distorted truth. She had a voice like a riot and the conviction to use it. In the early 1980s, she met Tommy Martin, a white guitarist with a jagged, experimental edge, who would become her husband. Together with drummer Matt Cameron, yes, that Matt Cameron who would later join Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, and a rotating cast of Seattle musicians, they formed Bam Bam in 1983. But this wasn't some punk wannabe band in the corner of a garage. Bam Bam was brutal, poetic, ahead of its time. While other local acts were still caught in post-punk hangover or metal cliches, Tina and Bam Bam were shaping what would become the blueprint for grunge. Dirty guitar tones, slow and heavy grooves, then manic bursts of screaming chaos. All delivered by a frontwoman who would go from soulful croon to scorched earth screams without warning. Live, she was unforgettable. She'd strut across stage with a cigarette dangling from her mouth, daring you to look away. She'd scream into your soul, not for attention, but because she had something to say. Her lyrics weren't nonsense. She was singing about racism, sexism, identity, the politics of being invisible in a scene that pretended to be underground, but was still steeped in whiteness and male ego. And that's where the tragedy starts. Bam Bam wasn't just musically dangerous, they were politically dangerous. Tina was too black, too bold, too loud, too ahead of her time for the Seattle scene to digest. Venues would book them reluctantly, labels ignored them. Journalists dismissed them. They weren't marketable. All the while, white bands were forming in their shadow, Soundgarden, Green River, Mudhoney, and getting traction off the very sound Bam Bam was pioneering. Still, they recorded. Their 1984 EP, Villains, Also Wear White, is a sonic grenade. Tina's voice shreds through tracks like Villains and Stress with a rawness that predates Courtney Love, predates Kim Gordon's Noise Fury. They toured Europe briefly in the late 80s, getting more respect overseas than at home. But it wasn't enough. The rejection and invisibility chipped away at Tina. The band's momentum faltered. By the late 80s, Matt Cameron had left for Soundgarden. Bam Bam kept going with other members, but the magic began to crack under the weight of the Seattle scene's indifference. Eventually, Tina walked away from the band, from the industry, from the very thing she helped create. She became a ghost before grunge went global. After years of grinding in the underground with barely any recognition, Tina Bell was exhausted. But it wasn't a collapse. It was the slow bleeding out of being ignored, of being dismissed while watching others ride the wave she helped create. Her voice was still a weapon, her presence still volcanic, but the world wasn't listening. Not really. Not to her. She and Tommy Martin, her husband and bandmate, were still trying to hold Bam Bam together, but the scene around them was mutating fast. A&R reps were finally sniffing around Seattle, but not for Tina. They wanted Soundgarden, Mudhoney, Screaming Trees, white, loud, safe in their rage. The people who had stood in the back of Bam Bam's gigs watching her howl on stage were now being praised as innovators. Tina, still no label, still no press, still too black, still too much. She watched bands form around sounds that she and Tommy had carved out years earlier. She heard her own cadences, her stage fire, her structure of scream-to-melody explosions, now being repackaged by bands fronted by men who wouldn't even say her name. And she felt it. Deep in her bones. It didn't matter how good you were. If the gatekeepers didn't see you, didn't want to see you, you didn't exist. But she didn't complain, not publicly. She wasn't the type to grovel for attention. She was a force of nature, not a politician. Her pride wouldn't let her beg for the seat she'd already earned. That silence, though, it cost her. It isolated her. Her marriage strained. Tommy was just as frustrated, but he was also watching his peers get signed, move on, tour, record. It created quiet pressure, a resentment that had nowhere to go. Eventually, Matt Cameron was gone, playing drums for Soundgarden, then Pearl Jam. He never brought Bam Bam with him. The scene became history, and Bam Bam was conveniently missing from the timeline, like they'd never mattered. And when it finally broke Tina, it broke quietly. No dramatic moment, no public fallout. She just stopped showing up in the same way. The hunger faded. The fire was still there, but it wasn't burning for applause anymore. Bam Bam, once fierce and loud and undeniable, began fading from the clubs, fading from the talk, fading from the memory of a city that had moved on without her. She drifted south, to Las Vegas. Not for fame, not for music, just to get away. She had a son to raise now, TJ Martin. He would grow up to become a powerful documentarian, even winning an Oscar for his work. But Tina didn't push him into anything. She kept the spotlight turned off. The people around her in Vegas didn't know who she'd been. To them, she was just another woman trying to get by. But she knew. She never forgot the stage, never forgot the songs, never forgot how it felt to create something before the world was ready for it. And she never forgot how it felt to be discarded the moment the world decided it was ready, but without her. Alcohol became part of her life. Maybe it dulled the sting, maybe it numbed the memory. Whatever the reason, she slipped deeper into the background. She wasn't asking for redemption, she just wanted peace. But what she deserved was recognition. She deserved a platform, a legacy, a name etched into the same stone as the ones who took everything she built. She died in 2012, alone. There was no media buzz, no tribute, no memorial by the city she helped define. Not one member of the Seattle royalty, people she had directly or indirectly inspired, said her name. She passed like a whisper in the wind while the echoes of her scream were still pulsing through stages around the world. It wasn't until her son, TJ, started speaking publicly that the world began to wake up. People dug up old Bam Bam tapes, heard the Villains also wear white EP, and said, wait, this was 1984? That voice, that sound, that fury, that was grunge, before grunge had a name, before Cobain picked up a guitar, before Eddie Vedder moved to Seattle. Before the labels showed up, Tina Bell had been it. The scene had existed because of her, not just around her. Matt Cameron eventually acknowledged her, praised her power. Journalists started rewriting their timelines. Tiny retrospectives popped up online. YouTube videos surfaced of old performances, grainy, raw, but undeniable. People were stunned. How did we miss this, they asked. But the real question was, why did you miss it? And the answer was as ugly as it was simple. Because she was a black woman in a white man's world, and that world didn't want her name on its creation myth. But history bends, even when it's late, even when it's shameful. Now slowly, the truth is fighting its way out of the grave. Tina Bell is being spoken of, finally, as what she was, the architect of a sound, a mother to a genre, a fire the scene tried to bury but never could extinguish. Her scream is still out there, raw, jagged, unfiltered. She was there first, and she mattered.